Dr. Guru.
Siddharth, yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this panel on research and finance. I'm Guru Subramaniam. I'm a professor at the University of Michigan. I hope all of you can hear me all right.
And yes.
Yeah, yes. We can hear.
Very clear.
All right. So I've been part of IUCE for the past 13 years, since 2007 or so. And hopefully I met a lot of you during the IUCE meetings in the past. My specialization is microelectronics and microsystems. I'm delighted to be part of this panel, which is going to be co-moderated by Dr. Sujatha Wadhwa, who's a CEO, First Step Overseas Consultant. So I'm going to turn it over to Sujatha to introduce herself, and then the first panelist.
Okay, thanks, Guru. Hi, everybody. It's really quite late in India, but I could see that all of us are so energetic and so vibrant still to listen all. And with that, I would be just saying two lines about me. That I have been with IUCE since last 7 or 8 years, and the GI panel, that is the industry advisory team. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Vandana Sohag. It is really a pleasure to introduce her. Wonderful person at heart, great attitude. She is the Dean of BML Munjal University, and she is a PhD and MSc Chemistry, along with MBA Double Masters. With her 20+ years of rich experience in administrative roles, initially she had worked with Manipal Group of Institutions. There also she was so much productive, prospective, and vibrant. And presently she has joined BML Munjal University in 2019, and she has been working as a dean in education quality. She also has worked as a registrar in Sikkim Manipal University and Manipal University Jaipur. And her major roles currently are in planning, finalizing national and international partnerships, industry academia tie-ups, and looking after the roles of HR and standardizing that. Our next speaker for today, panelist for today, would be introduced by Dr. Professor Guru. Over to you, Guru.
Yes, thank you so much, Sujatha. The second panelist is Professor Subramania, who gave an excellent plenary talk just, I guess, last hour. He's a principal at RV College of Engineering. He has a bachelor's of engineering in industrial engineering, and then MTech from IIT Chennai, and PhD. And he has over 29 years of academic research experience. He has supervised over 100 undergraduate and postgraduate projects in operations management, supply chain and logistics, e-enterprise modeling, decision sciences, and applied ergonomics. Executed over 3 crores of funding at his current institution over the past 3 years. Back to you, Sujatha.
Okay. And our next panelist, could you please? Our next panelist for today, the last one, but obviously not the least one, is Professor Shiv Kumar, who is a dean at Nalanda College of Engineering in Research and Development Department. And he also is a PhD and an MTech and a BE in instrumentation. He also has a great extensive experience of 29 years in academics as well as research. So I'm sure we would be able to gather a lot of insightful experiences from him, along with the previous session which we just had related to research funding and all. He has past experiences in NBA as an NBA coordinator and director of internal quality assurance cell. He has published over 60 journal papers, which is really amazing, and 20 conference proceedings. So in total, it's almost 80. He completed 4 externally funded research and development projects, and presently 2 projects in research and development are ongoing with TSD and AICTE. He has a privilege of organizing 18 faculty development programs in embedded systems, instrumentation, and quality issues in engineering education. So these were the massive introductions to all the panelists for today. And over to you, Guru, to welcome our first panelist.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next slide. So it is my pleasure to ask Dr. Vandana Shuhag to talk about stimulating research excellence.
Thank you, Guru. It's a wonderful opportunity for me to be here and showcase what we are doing and what best we can do as far as research excellence is concerned, because it's a journey which is never ending. So we all together have to learn from each other and to share our knowledge and do something good, which is globally, wanted for. So shall we move on to our next slide, because just the cover. Yeah. So when we talk about Indian university position, the world ranking, everything is very, very clear to all of us. We know that India does not have any of its educational institutions in the top 100 global rankings by their yardsticks. The reason for that, such absence can be many, but one of the major reasons is research output. The basic roles of a university is to generate, disseminate, create new knowledge through fundamental research. India today has more than 1,000 state, central, public, and private universities, and around more than, you can say, 45,000 colleges with overall enrollment of higher education at 3.7 million and above, with 1.6 lakhs in PhD only, which though is less than 0.44% of the total higher education. The PhD awarded in 2017 were 34,400 in all the subjects as per the UGC report 2017-18, with maximum research scholar enrollment in science, followed by engineering and technology, while humanities has only 2.4% of the total. Even with 34,000 plus thesis submission, the nation contribution to the global ranking was 5th in 2017 in terms of research output. Impact-wise, it was 42 ranked in Global Innovation Index and 50th in research funding. So in spite of our intellectual capital, barring a few institutions like IISc, Bangalore, IITs, why other institutions are not able to produce this seminal research? Also, why is that except in subjects like physics and chemistry, we produce only very few, the world-class research publication in other subjects? Shall we move on to the next slide, please? Next, please. Yeah. So this is only the examples. Like, for example, almost half of the South Korea's published articles are in physical sciences. In India, about half the articles explore topics in chemistry. In New Zealand, on the other hand, publishes across much broader range of topics. And if we talk about expenditure on the research, at 0.7% of the GDP, India's R&D expenditure in science is less than other BRIC nations. India's national gross expenditure on research and development in science and technology alone has increased from rupees 73,000 crores in 2012-13 to rupees 1,04,000 crores in 2016-17. So, however, GERD as percentage share of the Indian GDP hovers around 0.7%, which is far lower as compared to Israel, which is 4.6%, South Korea 4.5%, Japan 3.2%, Germany 3.20%, USA 2.8%, France 2.2%, UK 1.7%, and Canada 1.6%. India's spelling and spending much lower than the BRICS nation. India spends 2.1%, Brazil spends 1.3%, while Russia spends a bit over 1%. Shall we move on to the next, please? Yeah. So, what are the possible reasons why the research output is not good? There are various reasons. Some of them are listed in the slide, like research should be more focused for, it should not only focus on the PhD degree only, it should not be a sympathetically awarded degree. Many research researchers, they lack in aptitude and inclination for research. Universities, they do not have proper mechanism also to find out whether actually the candidate has aptitude to do research. Universities, I'm not talking about all, but university in general, they do not check whether that candidate has desired skill to carry out the research. So there is no connect with the community industry, lack of academia industry connect. So there is a mismatch definitely which is noticed as far as India is concerned. So why this mismatch is, there can be possible reasons. India's niche domains as therefore requirement are not known to the higher education sector. If we talk about the industry, higher education sector's expertise in different domains not known to the industries, less idea about regulatory and statutory compliances of industries by higher education and vice versa. Industry not very keen to collaborate with higher education because of various reasons. Some of them are industry stringent timeline due to product targets, poor quality of research in higher educations, past record of collaborative efforts. Faculty is also not very familiar with the product work culture of the industry and challenges faced by the industry. Lack of initiatives in higher education to work to elevate local community problems and tendency to work in silos. Generally, we work in silos. Industries also work in silos, some of them. So there is very less idea about the technology transfer. Shall we move on to the next, please? Next slide. Yeah. So we discussed more or less, we covered like lack of interdisciplinary research, limited research infrastructure is available in the higher education sector, collaborative network is also not there between the scholars when we talk about collaborative work. So robust training for motivation of PhD scholars is also required for giving them, for motivating them for publishing in high impact publications. And even, you know, at school level, we should train our students to focus more about analytical and innovative thinking. We have now started focusing more on the OB education other than in college level, in undergraduate level. We should also focus on the school level itself so that the habit is inculcated from the beginning itself. Next, please. Next, yeah. So there are some suggestions to improve the research outcome. Some of them are like, definitely government has taken some initiative, like they have started identifying the institutions of eminence who can be there. Then we can also learn from countries like Israel, South Korea, Japan, which have leveraged research by drawing their interface of academics, multinational and corporates, research for scientific growth, world-class publications, better university rankings, and also for employment and economic development in India. Social science and humanities also require equal attention like STEM. Then field of science, engineering, social science, industry, etc. are to be integrated. There has to be interdisciplinary approach which is required. So when we talk about, you know, why the improvement, how it can be done, we know that, you know, there is a match making technique which is generally very well known in India. When we decide for a marriage, we fix on something, some criteria. So what are those criteria if we talk about industry as well as higher education sector? Because we definitely need that collaboration for better result, for better connectivity, for better output. So when we follow this matchmaking technique of Indian society, what is the requirement of the industry? That also should be known to us. What is the requirement and what is the strength and weaknesses of the higher educations are also to be known to the industries. So industries, what should they do? They should prepare, higher education sector, they should prepare the list of the industries with their niche areas. List out the challenges and the requirement. That's what we have started doing at BML Munjal University. Then we have a certain commitment for industry units in terms of finances, guidance, the availability of resources, access of facilities. We have started, we, despite a very young university, we have started doing all those things. We identifying IPR related and confidentially constraints, and we must take the problem statement from the industry, and we also identify the industrial problems. Generally what we do is, whenever students are going for some project or something like that, we just impose some kind of project on them. We must take the problem statement from industry itself. We must identify what are the need of the industry to have a better connect. So on the other hand, the higher education sector, we talk about what has to be done for higher education sector. Prepare a list of higher education sector with potential and meaningful research. Identify the research domains relevant to local industry. We should identify what is where all the local industries are. Some of the higher education sectors, they always go for faraway industries or corporates. They forget there are local industries which are also situated nearby. We just forget about them and move on to the next. So that should not happen. We should identify what are their problems. We should.
Dr. Vandana, could I ask
Yeah.
you to finish your presentation?
Yeah, just give me 2 minutes. I'm just about to finish. We can move on to the next slide. Meanwhile, you can move on to the next slide. Yeah. So identify the research domain relevant to the local industry, past record to be seen, research strengths are to be identified, where higher education sector has excelled, that also should be known to the industry. Faculty should have requisite credentials. List out the research facilities available both sides. A set commitment of senior management towards research in terms of finances, etc. should be there. Then organize domain specific seminars taking in collaboration with industries. These are generally common thing. Industrial units with interest of engage in research and are keen to collaborate with higher education sector. Then requisite strength are to be known. Facilitate identification of the specific projects. Organize small cluster meetings, industry units, higher education to discuss and identify the broad details. So many, the industrial association, they have the potential to act as a matchmaker, like CII, even IUC, they have the potential to act as a matchmaker and to ensure that suitable and compatible partner, they come together to contribute at national development. So that's a very commendable thing which IUC is doing. Specific department in the institution like industry academia relation, that has to be set up. We have set up in BML Munjal University. Virtual labs are to be seeing the current situation. Virtual labs are to be figured out at appropriate places. We list out the top strength of research and academic institution, pair the same with industry partner, model the country wise depending on the strength of the country. Like Israel is known for water technology, Japan for automobiles. So we should also identify that. We can move on to the next piece. Yeah. So then, yeah, just the last one, potential institution. 2-3 points only I have to share. Like involve industry personnel as co-PI in PhD program. Societal values are to be connected. Potential institute university should be identified as a regional center, nodal center. The academic industry collaborations are to be there. Research clusters are to be formed. And now even the government of India, they have identified that they have encouraged R&D funds to be permitted. The CSR funds are also to be utilized for R&D. So even those things are also possible these days. So research focused institutions, there are various things which are there, just a suggestion to improve the research outcome. Together we have to do something to get why Indian universities are not there on the global ranking. There are various reasons. So we have to think of that. Quality project, quality publications, all the things, they have to come from the collaborative work.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We'll have some questions, I'm sure, maybe later on after all the panelists. Yeah. So please feel free to send us questions. And Sujata, could you
now we welcome our next panelist, Dr. K.N. Subramaniam. Welcome. And initially, he had written on the top of his presentation, "Go change the world." So with your guidance and expertise, I'm sure along with IUC collaboration, we will try our best to change the world. So over to you, Dr. Subramaniam.
Okay. So again, I'm here. I will continue with whatever I did in the plenary discussion. That there my focus was on how to build the research culture in the department wise. So now my focus would be fundamentally on how to build centers of excellence. So in the sense that if any institution has got some experience, let us say for a decade, in executing the individual projects from the faculty members, then comes a role of building interdisciplinary teams. I have put what exactly we are doing in our college. I think that I put it, but maybe some better things which others can try to share also. So what exactly we do in our college when we are building centers of excellence is, first of all, based on the experience what we have in the institution or the institutional strengths, with respect to the areas of research. So we try to identify the thematic research, areas of research. So it could be based on the strength, or could be based on lot of other public documents which are available. It could be 2030 sustainability goals of United Nations, or it could be Vision 2035 document of Government of India, or it could be 14 grand challenges for engineers for the next 100 years. Actually, they are given, and also Industry 4.0, or it could be based on the local needs wherever the institutions are located. So based on these things, I think the first thing is to identify the thematic areas of research. When once we do this, the next job could be forming an interdisciplinary team. This is very, very important. So there is no way that if we can do a serial, it will take time. Time frame is also very important. Otherwise, what happens is people keep on doing the things, and at the end of the day, we don't know whether we are achieving what we are expecting also or not. So in that way, next would be assigning the interdisciplinary team in the institution. Let us say take a project. It may need a computer science engineer, it needs an electronics engineer, it needs a mechanical engineer. Please identify the strengths of these departments and try to make a good team. That will, in fact, at least I've taken 5 years in my college to make these teams. It is not so easy because it takes a lot of courage to do it from the leadership role. At the same time, there should be passion among the faculty or want to be a part of the interdisciplinary team. In fact, this human kind of a thing takes a lot of time to do it. When I'm doing this, again, I'm also going to assess or attach a PhD scholar for these teams, or could be MTech students who will be passionate about these things. In fact, even in our college, in fact, there is a research culture among the undergraduate students also. At least 30% of the papers by students is in journal. So I think we have tried to create a research culture in the institution. So through these things, we can assign an interdisciplinary team is the next thing we have looked into. The next is developing modules and imparting trainings. See, I will show you in the next slide what are some of the areas we are talking about. People talk about IoT. When I talk about IoT, do you think all of us know about IoT? It's not there. But there may be some ideas we may having about it. So a training in the research training, that's what I was telling in the other talk, that IUC could be helpful to us in identifying the training partners, training experts, so that whatever is the niche areas an institution selects, we have to develop the modules and impart the trainings. So ultimately, in the beginning, the training, the thematic areas will become a must. Then institutional funding. Initially, institutions also should fund for the initial experimentation and the simulation also. Otherwise, straight away, if you apply for a project, I don't know, the success rate is, as Dr. Radhakrishnan was telling, is around 10 to 20% today. So colleges should research that confidence. Interdisciplinary team gets a confidence moving further. Without this, I think the confidence level should be very, very low. Next could be leveraging the knowledge base. Mentoring by the industry and the research in the thematic areas. So training is different, mentoring for a project is different. So once they get the training, this team decides what all the areas they can select. When once they select the areas, next part would be the industry or the research expert should be in a position to share the knowledge and try to fine tune these centers of excellence. Then apart from that, it would be execute work as per the standards. So obviously, when you want to do any research, when you want to particularly do deliverables, I think a lot of work has to be done. Lot of systematic procedure of doing a research is also very important, which expects, in fact, even before applying for a project, can we publish some papers? Can we, if there is initial work which is already done, can I apply for a provisional patent? In fact, these things will be very much helpful if going for a good in the institute. Next, execute the work as per the standards. That means the deliverables, whatever is expected based on the publications, prototypes and the patents can be done. And finally, when once the deliverables are given, I think any research project deliverables should be to a maximum of a prototype. But the next level, the prototype should be taken to the next level. In fact, in our college, we also have an incubation center. We have incubated 6 companies. We have invested almost on 2.5 crores to build an incubation center. So next, can you look into these ideas? In fact, 2 of our faculty are working in the incubation center. So and they have executed the project already. The prototype is ready. No, they want to business acceleration and other things have to be done, which they are doing in the incubation center. So incubation, the startups, the commercialization of the IPs, then the revenue generation for sustainability is going to become the order of the day. And if any sustenance of the centers of excellence is there, I think if we don't do this on a continuous basis, I think we will not be excellence be down per year. So we have found in the last 2-3 years, I think this model is working very well, because out of 370 faculty in our college, 220 have already have PhDs, and they're in the different ways of doing the projects. Some people are doing the department projects. Some people have experience in the research. They are coming to the centers of following in our college to build the centers of excellence. Is it so easy to do it? It's not so easy. As of now, we have so many centers of excellence in the college. So the first one we started somewhere in the automation technologies, sometimes maybe 15 years back we started. So this is typically to upskilling R&D and industrial consulting in the automation area. This was done with actually Bosch Rexroth automation company, and also institutional research. In fact, institutional research budget is separate in our college. All the departments will have the research budget. At the same time, the institutional interdisciplinary research budget is also separate budget in our finances. So that will help.
1 minute left.
So next, which was a World Bank project, which is by TechCube, as well as the DST, which is around 20 crores investment we have made. Internet of Things with Cisco, they have funded us 3 crores and we have spent 2 crores on that. And we are doing the domains of research has been highlighted. Computational genomics in the biotechnology department. All these are interdisciplinary team. For example, computational genomics has got computer science faculty with the biotechnology faculty. Automotive mechatronics is again with the Mercedes-Benz. Then we have smart antenna systems and measurements. We have actually anechoic chamber. We have built for doing a lot of experimentation in the smart antennas. We have recently started e-mobility center of excellence with Greaves Cotton, and also with Dortmund University mechanical engineering department. It's a tripartite agreement which are working to work in the area of battery technologies and the control systems. Then we have, I think, let me thank the last research center is the Motive Krishna Vedula actually. So we are starting education digital learning center also, where we are 2 to 3 months it will be ready. We focus only on the digital learning research and the education and also the MOOC courses. The final slide is that as the outcome of all these research centers of excellence in our college, we have in the last 5 years almost around 6,000 publications. Out of that, 4,000 publications are in Scopus and Web of Sciences. And we have filed 49 patents in the last 4 years, and patents published are 37, and they are on the questioning stage of the 12, and the 2 patents have been granted recently. We are also looking for actually the commercialization of these 2 patents already. We are working with the company. Then we have funded projects apart from all the investment, whatever has been made by the companies. 10 crores in the last 3 years. There are 83 projects, and training and consultancy, including the industries, is around 5 crores which have executed. And I think this is the outcome we have achieved. And I think it's a long way to go in the research. I think nobody can say that they have achieved something. It takes long way, but I think if there is a good beginning, we will always have a good end, according to me. And it's a work in progress. And I hope collaboration of the institutions will be able to grow mutually with the institutions. I think once again, I thank you very much for all the support given by IUCE. And this is some of the thoughts I had in building the centers of excellence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Guru,
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Subramaniam. Really, your last slide is highlighting with numbers. 83 rupees 10 crores, 146 rupees 5 crores. I think that is why we especially have selected and requested you to talk about research and funding. So this is the best way to use and achieve funding. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Over to you, Professor Guru.
Yes, so it's my pleasure to welcome Professor Shivakumar, our final panelist, to give his presentation. Siddharth, could you go back to the slides so we can?
Thank you, Professor Guru. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Thank you, Professor Guru and Dr. Sujata. At the outset, I thank the authorities of IUCE for giving me this excellent opportunity to interact with the elite audience in this evening. And my focus is on the theme of this discussion, which is the research funding. So most of the topics that I will cover may be an overlap of what Dr. Radhakrishnan spoke during the keynote address. Maybe it is the subset. Let me first tell about how to write a research proposal, which has been at length spoken by Dr. Radhakrishnan. At the beginning, a researcher must have a hypothesis, which is a practical one and which could be validated. To validate that one, experimentation is to be carried out, observations are to be made, and results are to be explored, and inference are to be drawn. Prior to that one, the agency which will fund that one, the equipments needed, the human resource needed, and the consumables needed for a project are to be procured, and for that purpose the best funding agency are to be identified, and then the writing proposal will start. Proposal writing is very important important function in R&D activity. First, emphasis on how to convey science to funding agencies. Then focus more on societal issues, the issues related to the human health, healthcare, and our day-to-day issues. If we focus more on that one, then the possibility of getting funded is more. Then my talk here, whatever I present now, is more focused towards the younger faculty who do or who are expected to do research activities, funded research activities. Potential of networking and social media in advancing science is very important. Most of us, we are aware of the social media, and the power of social media in enhancing our communication skills is enormous, especially the platforms like Quora, where a lot of people are writing very good ideas, and how to convey that one, it is really useful. And the last but not the least is never give up, keep applying repeatedly. So normally what I have observed with my experience is no proposal will be selected for funding at the first. You have to keep on improving your proposal, keep on applying this one. It may not be out of context if I narrate a story of a cricketer, a Sri Lankan cricketer, Marwan Attapattu. Though it is not related to research, it is not definitely out of context. It is for a perseverance. He was first selected to the national team. In the first innings of the test, he scored 0, and second innings also 0. He was dropped. He went back to the nets, practiced, scored a lot of runs in the first class cricket or domestic cricket. Then again he was selected after 17 months. Now he scored 0 in the first innings, 1 in the second innings. Again dropped, recalled after 21 months. This time also he scored 0 in the first innings and 0 in the second innings. Then after 2 years, he was recalled to the national squad of Sri Lanka. This time he never looked back. He scored 6 double centuries, 16 centuries to the national team, and he captained Sri Lankan team, and then later he became the coach. This is an example of a perseverance. In the meantime, he is, by the way, he is a qualified this chartered accountant. Marwan is chartered accountant. He would have changed his path with his flourishing practice of chartered accountancy. But his perseverance, he kept on doing this, improved on his skills, then so he excelled. The same can be applied even for the research. Then the next point is the policies of funding agencies. As rightly pointed out by my co-panelist, Madam Vandana, the percentage of GDP spent by our country is just 0.85 on research, R&D. But when it comes to the Israel spends 4.9% of its GDP, which is the highest in the world. Then it's South Korea, 4.2%. US is around 2.9% as per the last year 2019 World Bank reports, which is spent on the R&D activities. Whereas in our country, it is very less. Most of the developing countries, it is less than 1% on the amount of funding which is earmarked for R&D activities. Here, there are some of the pros and cons in the policies of funding agencies, which I have listed here. Age as a barrier for applying. In AICTE and in some funding, SERB, UGC, etc., 40 years is a barrier, which may be good, may not be good, which is again case dependent. One, they may expect a researcher at a very young age and then they continue the research. And what I feel is it must be a blend of young and experience. In some of the projects, there are no co-investigators. If there are co-investigators, then they can put an aged person as a co-investigator. They can continue with the project. Then department should have a PG program.
Dr. Kumar, 1 minute left.
Yeah,
sorry, madam, I need another 2 minutes. I will quickly go through this one. So department should have a PG program running, then sanction a fraction of the requested amount. Then normally they transfer the fund to the college account on, say, in the month of December or January. 31st March is fast approaching, the last day of the financial year. You have to spend everything in a hurry. Then administrative paperwork, getting clearance from committees. Whenever you are doing an R&D activity in the area like biomedical engineering, getting permission from the ethical committee, clearance from the ethical committee is very, very important. And they take their own time. Then catch them young will boost confidence of researchers at an early age. Now, Catch Them Young is a CSIR project, which is a very good one, where a young scientist will be, the younger generation will be taken into the R&D activities at a very early age. Now, we also have so many programs like KVPY for students at the college level. Then we have, Ramanujan Fellowship, which is for the NRIs who are settled abroad and if they want to continue research in India, there is a facility called Ramanujan Research. There are so many programs for research activities. Next slide, please. So what I have observed in the academic fraternity is most of the times they apply for funding in the most of the day not explore. If you just permit me to share my screen, I will show that list with the URL.
Professor Shivakumar, we are running out of time, unfortunately.
Okay, meanwhile, Dr. Shivakumar, we have a question. Meanwhile, we set your screen. So the question is, if you could just highlight some strategy or a strategy that faculties can adopt to excel in academics and execute research projects as well, including publishing and patenting. I'm not sure. I think the question is from Dr. Subramanya. So any one of our panelists who would like to reply could answer.
I will just Dr. Sujata, I will just complete my presentation, then I will take the questions.
So you have 30 seconds to complete it because we already are running over time. 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Session time is actually done, so we're already late.
different agencies from where you can get funding. It's
Wow, that's very important.
etc. So there is an exhaustive list here I have prepared.
So Dr. Shivkumar, that's really extensive and well applauded work which right now you are showing. So I just
Yeah.
request you if you can forward it to us and we could circulate it amongst all the participants, those who have attended the session and those who haven't, because I think this
Sure,
would be very much fruitful. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so that's so Dr. Shivkumar, should we go ahead?
Yeah, quickly I will go through the remaining slides. I have just two slides remaining.
We're already out of time for the
Guru,
session.
Guru has to take the lead now.
Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Shivkumar, I think maybe we can close the session if.
Yeah. So yes, thanks Soham. I also have asked Dr. Shivkumar to share the list. He would be doing that. Okay.
Do we want to share the slides or shall I stop it? This one.
Yeah, I have just two slides. I have just two slides. Quickly, I will.
Okay.
Conclude.
So
quickly, I will conclude.
From where we left, Dr. Shivkumar's last two slides.
I want to tell about the two things. One is MSME, which is ignored. There are very good projects on MSME. MSME is the backbone of our economy. There are around 6.3 crore units of MSME, which is spread across the country. So to boost the rural economy, to improve the employment at the rural area, MSME is to be strengthened. And now the government, through its Atmanirbhar program, has earmarked nearly 3 lakh crores for MSME funding. Next slide, please. There are 4 good programs. First one is Aspire. Second one is Technology and Quality Upgradation Support to MSMEs. If you go to that MSME website, you will get the information about this one. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So previous slide.
Previous slide.
This slide. There are 2 more. Previous one. So entrepreneurial and managerial development of SMEs through incubators. Last one, enabling manufacturing sector to be competitive through QMS and QTT. These are the 4 programs where the technical institutions can participate. So these are the good programs where we can support MSMEs, and there will be a collaboration with the rural industry with the academic institutions. Next slide, please. Next thrust area is R&D in agriculture. Though we have the institutes like ICAR and NCBS, which will support R&D activities in agriculture and allied sector like veterinary, fisheries, etc. We can collaborate through agricultural universities to carry out research in the agriculture area, where the contribution of technology to the agriculture is very minimal, only in the form of farm mechanization. But to the greater extent, we can support them in agriculture to increase the productivity. Next slide, please.
All right.
So prior to say thank you. So a sound thinking creates a sound mind. A sound mind creates a great idea. A great idea brings us big funding. Thank you all.
Excellent. So let me, so only one question, and we will basically, maybe 2 questions, but highlight the strategy to excel in academic and research. That's one somebody asked. Second thing is, what is your biggest challenge? So if you can, each of you answer that, I think that would.
If I have to answer, then I will say that, you know, when you want to excel academics, you have to take students along. So you need to have a project-based, you know, the pedagogy which has to be followed, and your experiments and everything has to be linked with project and experiential learning, so that more of the output-oriented work can be done. And you should try to write publications along with the faculty. You make a team with the students, and so that the academics part of the students is also looked after. You are matching, your curriculum also should be designed in such a way that research and academics go hand in hand. So then the research projects and publishing and patenting also will be improved, and the projects which students are doing, those can be identified for patenting. Not all the project works. So a kind of strategy which has to be planned or seen for identifying the projects which can be patented, and students also can be guided for IPR related activities. So there's a, that is doable thing. So that is the easiest thing which I said I should share this.
Okay,
Having those experiments
sure.
integrated kind of.
Yeah.
Sir, I would like to add 1 or 2 points. Like, typically what happens is why faculty are finding it difficult to do both academics and research is that somewhere in the academics we are caught in the rote learning. So I think they have to come out of that. That is my first point. If they come out of the rote learning, be very smart in delivering, because 50 hours of teaching in a particular 4-credit course is not needed for a student. It's a one-way communication. So can they do for 20 hours of teaching and involve 30 hours students in the class? It will definitely reduce their 50% of the time in the academics. This I'm trying to advocate in my college. The changes, when once that changes, people find time for research work. Otherwise, this complaint will be there forever. I think that's the first one. And also involve in the research activities. As Madam told, start from the PhD scholars, then to the MTech students, then also to the B students. Try to create a research culture at an early age. Then things will become very easy.
Professor Shivakumar?
My point is, the research should not end with publishing papers. It should lead to a patent, it should lead to a product, and it should help to the community and the country as a whole.
Excellent, excellent point.
Excellent.
What are the
Dr.
main challenges?
Shivakumar.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Please go
Yeah, I
ahead.
was going to say, what would be the biggest challenge for each one of you, I guess, to motivate faculty? And how do you, what major challenge for you?
Some motivation for there are 2 ways. Basic, I think, is not needed. I think it's there inherently they should develop that if they don't have. That is point number 1. Point number 2, motivation is by and large many times. I think financial motivation will definitely help the people to take care of the things. But at the same time, we should try to motivate on a long-term basis and also give a career path for the faculty members. As of now, it's all the time-bound promotions actually in majority of the institutions. You complete 5 years, you get this AGP. You complete 10 years, you'll get a professor. I think this path, there should be also a fast track. If somebody who performs very well, I think there's a fast track. Automatically, people get motivated to do the things in a better way.
Sure. Yeah. Dr. Srivag?
There is one more question in the chat box.
Yeah.
Is it possible for all engineering colleges in India to pursue world-class research? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I will give you ISRO's example of Mangalyaan. Government of India gave 405 crores to ISRO to carry out MOM, Mars Orbital Mission. They reached Mars at a cost which is less than Ola or Uber Auto per kilometer. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Dr. Shivakumar, my question to you, that's not from the participants, but you mentioned in one of your slides, age as a barrier for applying for writing research proposals. So do you think that age is a barrier?
No, for applying, I will give an example, madam. One of the faculty from our college has applied for, was trying to apply for AICTE RPS, Research Promotion Scheme. So he filled all the, all the columns needed there. Then when age comes, there's a restriction on, let's say, age, 40 years. It was a very good proposal on quantum physics, number 1. Number 2, another condition by AICTE is to apply for RPS, the department under which the faculty is working must have a postgraduate program, running a postgraduate program. How a physics department in an engineering college, which is a supporting department, runs a PG program where there is no UG program at all. My point is, you consider a R&D proposal case by case. Look at its merit.
Yes, absolutely. That's right. Okay, Professor Guru, any other questions? Would you like to ask?
I think maybe we'll give an opportunity for Dr. Suhag to talk about the challenges, I guess.
Yeah,
If I have to talk about challenges, then I will go back to connect. Yeah. So the challenges basically international collaborations.
Okay.
Global. Globally, we should, in case we want to do something, we should have a kind of, maybe IUC can help us out in collaborating with some industries or some higher education institutions which are doing great work in the research, so that Indian universities can also come up. So, a split kind of PhD can also play a good role here. If a person from other university abroad can be a co-guide or guide, and the faculty or the scholar can be registered here in India, so that financially that also can be made, and the guidance also can be given, and 2-3 months the person can go and get a quality kind of research. Assessment is also one thing, research assessment. There are ways how you should assess the research protocol, submission, what type. Assessment is also a big challenge where we should focus upon.
Sure. Yeah, and that's something IUC is working on. So I think that's, so I think this is a good point to end the panel. So thank you so much. I know we ran over, so it's almost an hour now.
30 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Guru, Dr. Guru. Thank you, Sujata. So on behalf of the IUC, in fact, I would like to thank you, James Subramaniam, sir.
Thank you.
Please join your hands to, thanks Dr. Vanna. Thank you very much, ma'am. It's a really great explanations and wonderful collections of all the funding agencies, Dr. G. Kumara. That's really good. Thank you very much. And not the least, because both of these moderators have worked very nicely with all the panelists, and thank you very much on all the great efforts given by Dr. Guru and Dr. Sujata. We are thankful to you.
Thanks, Sid. Thanks, everyone.
Both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sujata.